I mean, as a community, Indian communities by nature are very closed off when it comes to anything regarding mental health or something that they seem as imperfect. I mean, even when they refer to cancer, they call it the big C. It's that ridiculous. At the outset, I knew nothing about Alzheimer's. I just come in touch with clients' parents who they had communicated to me that their parents had been diagnosed with different types of dementia, but it was something I knew nothing about. And I know lots of health issues have happened in my family and within my friend circle, but never had dementia been mentioned once. So I went in blind and I thought, okay, I started researching. I just didn't find anything that made it easy to research, to enable a family to deal with this. Alzheimer's is like speaking another language, and I felt there were no tools to enable a family to do that. And you had to phone different councils, different boroughs, different memory clinics. It was insane. It didn't make any sense to me that something so massive. And I knew I had then learned. I'd spent time with people who had Alzheimer's and different dementias, and I saw how they regressed and what they became. The brain shrinks. So you can't process things, and they become different people. So you're essentially living and grieving at the same time. You're losing that person. And again, it was just not spoken about. So I started giving talks I started with my own community, and everyone was just in silence, not talking. And I said, look, I need you to help me. I've shared what I've learnt, and I've shared what I think will help us. One of you must know someone who has dementia. There are 300 of us in this room. How is that possible? And one of my aunts, she stood up and she said, my husband doesn't recognise who I am. And that was a floodgate. She then shared her story of how her husband had Alzheimer's for the last 4 years and nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about it in our community, so-called close community where everyone knows everything, and that there are always these weekly get-togethers or monthly get-togethers, especially for the senior citizens. And no one knew. I'm only speaking from South Asian communities, but I feel that people know something's wrong, but they don't want to explore. They don't want to be in a position where it's a difficult conversation, especially when it's something they don't fully understand themselves.
What are the key diseases, the unspoken diseases?
Cancer's definitely one of them, and I even had to correct my mum until recently, and she said, and she's had cancer herself, and she still sometimes refers to it as, oh, he's got C. And I said, why are you speaking in a soft voice of shame? Why? How does that help you, and how does that help me? How does that help anyone talk about this? And even, things down to I had endometriosis and polycystic ovaries, and no one had a clue what they were 20 years ago. So she used to say, oh, Lena's got an issue with her MC. Like, what the fuck is an MC? And she said, menstrual cycle. Oh my God, do we live in Victorian times that you actually have to abbreviate it and not call it what it is, a period? And I think I started resenting our culture from then and realising that there was something bigger that was taking place in our universe, which I just wasn't a part of. When I started bringing this up, everyone said, oh, it's a really great idea. It's, yes, we should know about it. And the Alzheimer's Society has come in and spoken to us. I said, but they've spoken to you in English. That's not their language. And they don't understand our cultural nuances. So how will they possibly be able to empathise and share what could be good? And why aren't we having regular conversations with people who we can all help? We need to understand it to be able to help someone. Because you can't, with one of the symptoms of Alzheimer's, the person repeats themselves all the time. And that's because the brain hasn't processed that they've said it 10 seconds ago. And then and even after I've given these talks, by the way, several times, people, and I've told them, look, please do not do that. It aggravates that person and it makes them feel shit. Ultimately, if I kept on asking you the same question and kept on going on at you, how would you feel? You'd feel angry, you'd feel frustrated, and you'd feel not listened to. And what do we all, as humans, we all want to be heard. And they still kept doing this, even to my aunt. And I'd been given Zooms, sessions, on like live sessions, and they still said, oh, she keeps repeating herself. And I actually wanted to blow my brain down. I'm thinking, I've said repeatedly that and I've said it in so many different ways, that you have a brain, if it shrinks, half of it's gone. So that means it can't have the same, function that it did before. And if I've said to you also, and I've said it in such a kind, empathetic way, that look, if I can't process it from 10 minutes ago, I'm not going to know that I've already said that. So I think times are changing when it comes to the younger generations, and I feel the advent of social media has really helped. I mean, there's lots I don't like about it, but it has created a lot of awareness, and we have information at our fingertips. Before, you'd have to go and find a book or find a literature to explain something to you, and now it's on your phone, right? What is this? And I definitely feel younger generations, in particularly South Asians, they're much more open. And I feel the traditions that they have, those are the ones that you don't see. Those are still hidden in terms of them wanting a particular type of spouse, etc. But I feel that they're much more willing, because cancer's so prevalent in in all communities now. So you're almost forced. You know that you're going to be sitting, if you're in a row of 10, half of them will be affected by cancer, directly or indirectly. So I think that's forced the conversation, the fact that so many people have these diseases now. And I think that's a really good thing, but I feel people almost want a quick fix, and you can't just have one talk and that's it. Now I know about this, so I'm fine. And I feel there is resistance with doing the work to understand disease. So with my father's family, they were heavy meat eaters, heavy drinkers, heavy smokers. And it's only when he met my mum, actually even when he met my mother, who was vegetarian, non-smoking, like worlds apart, did he start thinking about that effect. And even then, because they had that patriarchy within them, and it was a family of 7 brothers and 2 sisters. So it was almost inherent that we do what we do, and that's it. And there was no knowledge of this is going to affect our heart negatively. They just were having fun and living life. And I think only when I was 4, I remember not smelling smoke in the house. That was his first heart attack. And I that's what I remember. I don't remember anything else. I just remember not smelling smoke. And then he definitely curtailed smoking, curtailed drinking and meat eating, but it still wasn't done to an effect that could have made a larger impact. So I feel if I had that knowledge, then obviously our whole habits and even awareness would be completely different. That being said, after his second heart attack, when he had a triple bypass operation, he then went didn't have hardly any meat. He had it was a good diet. And that definitely affected our day-to-day living in a really positive way, because then I started learning about it, and we were much more aware of, oh my God, by the time he was my age, he already had 2 heart attacks. And both my sister and I, she's 52, neither of us have had one when it's a hereditary gene in our family. So I think that's had a huge impact with our lives and how we conduct our lives.